Hello, hello. Can you hear me now?
Mm-mm. It just says stream starting soon. Stream starting soon, no. Let me go to the YouTube page rather than the link. Tanner. See? I hear it now. Music.
Hey, welcome. If you can hear me talking and you can hear some music playing, let me know in the chat if you don't mind. All right, thanks for tuning in. If my voice is like too quiet or too loud or anything, please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Having some camera problems. Give me a second here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know why this is giving me so many problems. Okay. That was quite the setup. 10 minutes in. Fantastic. We'll trim that in post editing. No, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Yeah, this is gonna be really fun. I've never done anything like this. Planning to live stream a design portfolio creation from nothing. So really excited to try that out with you. Sit around, hang out, ask questions in the chat, give me feedback, ideas, or just hang out. Would love to see your comments and feedback as we go through this. If you're watching this after the live session, thanks for watching as well. My name is Tanner Christensen. I'm a digital product designer, and yeah, I'm looking for jobs. So I thought I'd take a stab at updating my website, which is long overdue. So I'm going to start building a design portfolio website from scratch, beginning in Figma. I'll walk through my design process and then go to hopefully Webflow. I don't know if we'll have time to do it. I want to keep this relatively short, so we'll see how much we can get through today. And if we need to set up another live stream to get more, then we'll do that as well. Welcome, chat. Glad to have you here. I do see a question right away that's not really relevant, but I'll answer it anyway. It's from Hamza. Hamza? Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Question from me: if there's some steps from the design process that are missing in my portfolio, for example, a sprint where we built a solution but didn't have capacity to user test, how do we navigate that in our portfolio? This is great because in reality, you will never have a project that goes through all of the stages of design. It doesn't happen in the real world. You have time constraints, budget constraints, different needs. So there will be times where you'll skip part of the design process out of necessity or otherwise. And in your portfolio, when you're writing a case study for those projects, I think it's really beneficial just to be honest. Honesty really is the best policy when it comes to a job search or building a portfolio or anything at all. Just be honest. So you can say in that case study, for example, look, we didn't do this part of the process for this reason, and here's how I felt about that, good or bad. If you had it your way, would you have done something differently? Why not? So just be honest with it. Hopefully that helps a little bit. If you have more questions, keep in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right in because I've got a lot to get through today. So like I mentioned, I'm building an updated design portfolio. Here's my current design portfolio I wanted to share with you all. I hate looking at this, honestly. I'm not super happy with this because it's really old at this point in terms of the design and the content. It's also something that I quickly built using React for the very first time not long ago as I was building out my company. And so I think a lot of the website is just poorly designed, poorly developed. It doesn't really feel like it's up to date with me. I've had this like grid layout for forever in my website because I think there's some benefits to exposing as much work as possible, and that's worked well. I know that as I redesign this, I'm going to want to keep my case study pages pretty similar to as they are now, where it's just this long basic article with lots of big imagery. I'm going to do that as well. Hey, Ashna asks in the chat, do you also do portfolio reviews? Yes, I do this pretty often these days. You can check out my YouTube channel and you'll see a few design portfolio reviews. Hopefully some of that content will help you in yours. And I'll probably be doing more live stream portfolio reviews in the coming weeks. So subscribe, follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or check out my website, and yeah, stay tuned for that. So this is the current website. I've got these sections up here, my work section, which is the home page, little confusion there. I've got a consulting page I want to make sure I keep, which is basically just people can purchase time with me where I'll go through whatever they need feedback on. And then I've got a blog, which I would also love to keep this in some capacity. It's been a really great thing for me to maintain and kind of share my thoughts or reflections. I often just go back through it myself and read through these articles. So I want to keep that with search. Search is pretty important here. And then I've got like a social media link up here, which I can do without. The other thing that's worth noting here too is, of course, I want to make sure that I keep it responsive. I think that's pretty key these days for websites. So everything needs to work on a mobile device or a tablet. Oh, that's my book. I did not mean to click that. Let me out. Here we go. So here's like what a case study might look like on mobile. You can click into the images and get it a little bit larger. So that's the kind of stuff I want to keep in mind as I go through this process. Okay, so to start off, this is an inspirational quote from John Maeda, I think is how you pronounce his name. Big fan of him, and this summarizes everything that I want to encapsulate in my portfolio, in my pursuit of a job. All I want to be is someone that makes new things and thinks about them. So that's our pursuit. Okay, so like any project, I'm going to start off with a list. I love to write. I love lists. It's how I get all my ideas to come together and make sense, and then I can play with those sections, those ideas. So I'm going to start with that, and I want to start by just listing out the individual elements that I know I'm going to need on my website. So we kind of just went through some of those. I'm also going to just think about what else I might be missing here. Oh, I do have an about page. I don't know if I showed that as well, but it'd be good to keep an about page. So let me think. So I've got this list started, which is pretty straightforward. I think what I'm also going to do is come back a step and talk about what I think the purpose of my portfolio will be. Like, who am I building this for? And ultimately, it's to help me get a job and hopefully build a little bit of a reputation around a specific kind of persona, I guess, is the best word that I can use for this. So who am I building this for? I want to say hiring managers and recruiters. Why am I building this? Easy way for others to see my work and understand what I do. And then I think what I also want to do here is think about like a principle or guiding kind of direction that I can keep in mind. I like this idea of simplicity. Simple equals better. I've personally always believed that let the work speak for itself rather than creating a design portfolio where you've got flashy animations or all this crazy video and stuff. There's nothing really wrong with that stuff in most cases, but I want my portfolio to be very simple. Get this audience to what they need as quickly as possible. And yeah. So right away I realized like what I'm doing here is kind of different than a design project, and then I'm saying here's the who, but here's like my why. It's not their why. I think that's okay. I've built enough portfolios. I'm experienced enough where I do understand what hiring managers and recruiters are looking for, I think, and how they navigate. So I am going to just intuitively apply that. It's things like discoverability, navigation, navigable, a portfolio that's easy to explore, work that you can understand, that's coherent and consistent. Those are the kind of things that I want to do. So I've got home, case studies, blog, consulting, about. Is there anything that I'm missing? I'm not sure. I'm going to keep going here. The next thing I want to do is think about these case studies breakdown, because that's really the bulk, the heart of my work. In fact, I wonder if I need a home page anymore, or if I can just say like that's a case studies section. Contact. Yeah, I don't have a contact page on here. I think that's a good call out. Thanks for that, Christina. I don't have a contact page on my website. What I do instead is I say on my about page, at the top of my about page, that photo's terrible. On the top of my about page, I just say the best way to contact me is through Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm not a big fan of email reach out these days. I'd much rather prefer it to come through a controlled channel where spam is a little bit easier to control. So I'll think about that one. And then resume. So I don't really have a traditional resume. I use my LinkedIn as my resume. I think that's just a consistent, easy place to have that information. So I'll kind of change this to be social, which maybe also covers the contact case and the resume case and some other things that might come up. So I'll think about those two things in a minute. But really what I want to do is address this case studies home situation. If I think about a home page, what I think I want to do is make it a way for people to easily get primed for the rest of my website. And what I mean by that is I want to set the stage very clearly and coherently so people know what to kind of expect as they go through my case studies, as they read my about and things. And I think the homepage is a good way to set that up. In other words, I think the homepage essentially should encapsulate all these other things in a very concise way. Maybe a buy my book plug. maybe. I'll think about that. So I'm going to just capture some quick notes here, elaborating on what each of these things might be. I'm doing this kind of wacky because I'm doing it in Figma. I'm trying to go really fast here, so bear with me. Case studies is, how would I summarize case studies? I think that's really just like the work. There's something here too, which is, can I turn case studies into like blog posts? And I think that would be a reasonable approach in some cases for some designers. But for me, I really like this idea of separating these two things and having a blog or articles. In fact, I need to kind of maybe think if I want to reword that. And the reason for that is because this is not my work. It's just thoughts and reflections. So I think that distinction is pretty important. And I will not include case studies or case study-like content in my blog. It's just more of the abstract thoughts around processes and things like that. Consulting, pretty easy. If you like what I've shared, you can book time with me. This is another way to contact me, like pay for my attention. And then about as, so historically I've used the about as like almost a biography of sorts, and I don't want to do that with my new website. I want to move away from that approach, and instead what I want to do is think about this audience again. If I'm really building this portfolio for hiring managers and recruiters, I want to use my entire website to help that problem, their use case. So I think the about should summarize relevant skills and experiences in almost like a resume kind of way. But now that I'm saying that out loud, I don't think that's a good approach. So let me come back to that in a second here. Ashna asks in the chat, also, if I pronounce anyone's name wrong, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names. Asks a question, shouldn't the homepage be more about the designer to get a look and feel of the person they would be hiring? Yeah, I think that's not wrong. I don't think that's a bad way to think about a homepage on a portfolio. But I really think the homepage in my kind of experience, what I've worked with and how I'm thinking about this now, I want it to really be a way to prime. Like this priming word is really important, I think, for the rest of the experience, because no one's going to come to the homepage and get enough signal on me to understand really what I'm about or what I've done. There's something there that I've been noodling on that I'll come back to here in a second, which hopefully will be really fun to share with you all. But again, I want to focus on this word primed. And if you don't know about priming, essentially, I think of this like a psychological principle where if you're just meeting someone for the first time and you say, hi, I'm Tanner, I'm from California, people immediately make assumptions about who you are and what you do and what you're capable of. Whether or not those assumptions are right, you have primed them for the conversation. I want to do the same thing for my website. And this is really why, let me show you. This is why I think introduction statements like this that I have on the top of my current portfolio, I think these are really important because they tell you not only who you are, but also what you do and what to expect from the rest of your experience kind of browsing the website. So when someone says, I'm a multidisciplinary digital product designer, you really kind of expect a lot of different things to come about when you look at their work. I've got some 3D stuff here, published book, mobile application, some branding, some illustration. That's multidisciplinary, so that kind of sets up the expectation. Now, to be clear, part of the reason I am updating my portfolio is because I don't think this statement summarizes effectively who I am and what I'm optimizing my career for at this point. I could just update it, but I think I have an opportunity here to really think from first principles around what a portfolio for me should look like. So that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm going to try to prime the audience, build these case studies in a way that is uniform and consistent. MTS, a question in the chat. Do you think mentioning age or country or how long you've been in the business is important? Yeah, I don't think age or location necessarily matters too much these days. I think it is what it is. You'll have to consider that on like your own personal basis. I do think years of experience is really, really helpful, especially if, again, my audience is for hiring managers and recruiters. They may be looking for designers who have a certain number years of experience or certain experiences under their belt, and I think that can really help there. Cool. So let's keep going. So again, I was coming back to this about page. I don't think this should be a summarization of relevant skills and experiences. I already have a resume that can do that. I already have my LinkedIn that can do that. I already have my case studies that can do that. So what would the about section really be helpful for conveying? Going back to the MT's question in chat, it could really be something around like years of experience, maybe accolades. How do you spell that? I don't know. Accolades. Yeah, I can learn how to spell things. Accolades. I wish Figma incorporated spell check. Okay, years of experience, accolades, like what else? Patents, maybe. Let's flag this one as questionable too. Like, what really is the purpose of this one? I'll come back to that a little bit later. I think this is the core that I want to try to get through in the next few minutes. Okay. Thanks for spelling that, Christina. Christina, did you look that up, or did you just know how to spell accolades? Okay, so I'm gonna just start here. This is like a decent breakdown of my architecture for my website. I do want to expand a little bit on case studies. I do want to expand on case studies because I think there's maybe some sub-elements here around, no, actually, no, I think it's fine. In terms of the architecture of the website, this is really all I want. When I come to tackle these case studies, individual pages, I'll want to make sure that they connect to one another. And what I mean by that is if a recruiter or hiring manager goes to my website and they click on a case study that they think is really interesting and they read through it, I want a really easy way for them to go see more case studies without having to go back to the homepage, for example. Another thing that I just thought of is can I find a way to associate blog content with relevant case studies? And I think that's really beneficial in showing recruiters or hiring managers I don't only do this work, I also think deeply about this work. Here's some stuff I've written that is relevant. That could be really great. And I want to tie that back also to my blog. So I'm going to write here a note. So again, I've got this like basic architecture, this structure in place. And what I'm trying to do is understand what do I think the purpose of this individual page will be? And then also how might I connect each of these things together? There's a question in chat here, or a comment. Is about me a chance to let your personality shine? What kind of person you are to work with outside of work, humanize yourself. Yeah, I think that's a great point here. It's like, who are you really outside your work? Now, that one's interesting for me. I like that a lot. Thank you for that suggestion. That one's interesting for me because outside of work, I'm working. I love to do what I do. I love designing and building. And so maybe that's something I can tease out in the about section. Good call out. Okay, I feel like I've got a pretty straightforward thing here. Let's like dive into what we want on the homepage specifically. So here we'll have navigation, of course. We want some kind of introduction statement. And again, the reason for that is to prime the audience. Then I've been thinking a lot about what I want else on the homepage. And there's a few things I do want. One is I want a way to highlight content that's like timely. So things like YouTube live events. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I also want a way to show case studies in a summarized way. So again, on my current portfolio website, I have a grid of images, which is visual. It's hopefully enticing to click on. But I'm very curious if I can explore a way to show case studies in a very condensed way without giving away everything that is in the case study. So let me think about this for a second. Do I also want to highlight blog content on the homepage? Yes and no. Most recent blog post, perhaps. And I think that's pretty relevant to like the YouTube content. But really case studies is yeah, how do I want to order this? There might be something about contact on the homepage too. And then a footer. What am I missing? If it's going to prime them, then I think that makes sense. I think what I want to do, though, is like, where do I want to put case studies? If I'm trying to visualize this in my mind of the most important information, navigation, obviously, top, easy peasy, help people find what they're looking for if it's not on the homepage. An introduction statement for that, again, giving them a sense for what they're getting into. I think highlight content is not correct. I think it's more of timely content. So some kind of announcement or something like that can be up top. And then I think what I want to do next is then get to the case studies. Something like that for the structure here. And I think that makes the most sense. That appeals to me. I think that let's just go with that for now. We can always change later on. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, so this is the home page. Let's go. I really want to focus on the home page because it's just such a beast of a project. I feel like case studies and stuff will be easier to do. What do you all think? Let me know in the chat if you want me to dive into anything specific. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep chugging away. I'll quickly maybe take some notes here around what else I might want. And the reason for that is because I'm curious if, as I dive into some of these other pages and the content that might go in them, if I'm going to be able to be inspired by what that content will be, that I can then take it to other places in the website. So if we're looking at a case study, this is going to be pretty simple. It's going to have the basic content. In fact, it might be worth just listing out that content now so I can understand what it is. So I've got a case study title, and this will be project or company. I've got both. I've got single projects that I have case studies on. I also have entire companies that I have case studies on. Navigation title. From there, what would be really important to have? I do think something like date range is really important. That tells the other person kind of what was going on there. And then quickly, like a summary statement, a large intro image. I think that would be great for captivating someone and giving them a preview of what to expect. And then just like the case study, right? So again, if I come back to my existing portfolio here, I think they need to be rewritten because they're not great. But yeah, I mean, this is already what I've got going on here, right? Is the title, description, summary, statement, and then it just goes into the work. So I'm going to keep this format. So that's position, role, date range, summary statement, large intro image, and then the case study. What I want to do here is also think about, again, some of the stuff I mentioned here around like connecting case studies to one another. So like, where will that be? Is that at the end? Not bad. I wonder if I can sprinkle it in here somewhere else. And then like blog content. Is that something I want to put inside of the case study itself? I feel like that might be too distracting. So what I'd like to do is put that at the end here. So again, the reason I'm putting relevant blog content and next or previous case study at the very end of these case studies is, yeah, they may not get noticed, but if you take the time to scroll through one of my case studies and then the next thing you see is go read this other case study or go check out this stuff I've written, I think that could be really helpful. Question from chat, is there an ideal amount of case studies to show? Yes. At least in terms of minimum. Maximum is we can discuss as much as you'd like, but minimum you need two. You need 2 case studies. And the reason for that is because when it comes to your career or getting a job, you really need to be able to demonstrate repeatable behaviors. That's what people are looking to hire, right? No one's going to hire you if you've built one application. Well, they might if they have faith in you, if you've done other things. But companies want to hire people who can do what needs to be done. And the best way to demonstrate that you can do that is by sharing repeatable behaviors where you've done that or similar types of things. So you need at least 2 case studies in the design portfolio. In terms of maximum, that is something that I personally struggle with. I could have dozens of case studies on my portfolio, but I've decided not to do that. I've decided instead to compartmentalize my projects into companies. So I'll have a single case study for Facebook, I'll have a single case study for Lyft, single case study for Gem, and I think that just, I don't know, it enables me personally to convey all the various breadth of work I've done over my career. There are also projects that are single case studies on my portfolio, like some of the apps I've developed and built myself, and some other things like that. So you want to play around with it. In my personal case, I know that I want to demonstrate that breadth of skills. So I'm going to have quite a few case studies, or at least links to my content. And that's a good call out. Thanks for bringing that up, Jackson. Is on my homepage, I've got this like case studies, but not everything I want to include here is case studies. I do want to include a link to my book, The Creativity Challenge. I do want to include a link to my old podcast, New Layer. Where is the right place to do that? Maybe case studies isn't even right. Maybe I want to keep case studies. I'm not sure. There's something here though, for sure, around like related content. Let's come back to that. That's interesting. Maybe we need to even have like a navigation link. I thought about this earlier. Maybe we need a navigation link for like what I call elsewhere, which is essentially like interviews, publications, non-professional work. Maybe we'll do that. Let me know what you think in the chat. Also, can someone in chat tell me if you can hear music, or is it just playing for me? Okay. So we've got the case study here. I like this case study layout. I think that's pretty strong. What I also want to maybe do here too is because I am actively looking for a job, maybe I want to do something like some way of calling attention. Like essentially what I'm doing here is I'm creating a marketing website of sorts, and you want to always have a CTA on your landing pages or on your website, right? Every page that someone's navigating, you want them to do something. And for my portfolio, I think what I want to try is contact me, hire me, interview me. So I think I'm going to give that a go and try to include some kind of something here. But again, I don't like contact pages, so we'll see about that. Okay, I'm going to just keep going. And again, some of this process that I'm using right now is a little absurd. Like, do I really need to include navigation in every single page list? No, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm just trying to move quick here. Okay, so we've got blog and the blog page itself, and then we've got blog page, a blog post, right? Oh, there's more. There's way more. There's blog. There's blog post. And then there's search. And I need to figure out if I'm going to be building this in Webflow. I need to figure out if search can also search like case studies, or if I can only search the blog. So we'll figure that out. And then for each blog post, that's this content here. Okay, sounds good. Let's go back to the blog. I like to have that search up top. Although if search can happen for more than just my blog posts, but also some of my case studies, I'm going to want to call that as its own page. So I am going to keep that as its own page. Yeah. So I don't think we'll do this. I think we'll include search in the navigation. So let me abstract this real quick. Basically, I'm going to rewrite everything I already have here. Yeah, maybe, I don't know what to call this. Like, do I need a case studies page if I have the home page that links to all the case studies? We'll come back to it in a second here. Also, this is not the right order, so I need to change that as well. Let's do that. Let's figure out the ordering here. I probably want search and consulting to be a little bit higher there. Okay. So now we've got the navigation. We don't need search here. I wonder if I want like categories. I think Webflow supports that. So I think that'd be cool, categories. I don't know if I want to also include tags, like hashtags or something. I think search can deal with that, so I'm not really worried about that. And then the actual posts. That's fine. All right, I'm not even going to worry about the rest of this stuff for now. I'm going to keep going just for the sake of time. I want to chuck through this and get to the actual construction here. So I'm just going to do this. You can see that we've now broken things down. That's just how I progress through things. I've got this plain reminder of what I want to do. I've got like a high-level breakdown of the individual pages. I'm now starting to break down some of the components in the individual pages so I can think through those as I design. And now I'm just going to start designing some stuff. And what I like to do here is just kind of think about the way I want to present myself or how I want to show up. So I'm going to try just some wacky stuff here. In fact, I think what the first thing I'll do is my introduction, because that will hopefully set the stage for everything else that's to come. So let me look at my current one, which, man, I'm just not a big fan of. One thing I do like from this is this breakdown of content. I think that's pretty important. So I want to maybe include that as well. But I'm going to update it. So let's come here and just say something like, let's keep it really simple. Digital product designer. I'm going to get rid of this actively looking and just not worry about that for now. I'm going to update this to, so I really like this explanation here of kind of, it's a summary of the case studies that are to come, right? And I think like if you were to visit my portfolio and only read one thing, only look at one thing, I think this introduction statement would be it. MT's got a comment in chat. I think I read something on LinkedIn about people not speaking about what they want in their next role in their portfolios, and they should do it more often. Yeah, so I think that there's something here around communicating what you're looking for in your career through your design portfolio, but I don't think it's as straightforward as saying, you know, I'm looking for X. I think instead you need to convey the kind of skills that you are passionate about, also experienced in, and just communicate what you're like interested in. And I don't think designers do that very well. So I might get into a preview of that here in a minute, but let's keep going for a second. So previously founded Shape to help designers learn how to interview, built and led the design function at GEM, designed software for autonomous vehicles, led design of the Atlassian mobile platform, designed I want to include one more thing here, but I feel like this is already so much. This is the biggest sentence. It's too much, but let me think here. What's the number? I don't know if I want to do this. Like, this is just so much content. And do I need any of this if I'm just including it in the case studies? So now that I'm thinking about this, I like this idea of branching this out. So here's what I mean. When I look at this homepage and I've got this introduction statement, I remember that it's really about a way to prime them for the rest of the website. But I also wanted to find a way to have condensed case studies. So what I think I'll do is I'll have this introduction statement that I'll come back to here in a second, and that will set the stage for the rest of the website. But I also want to break out this paragraph of stuff that I had previously and use this as part of the case study introduction, right? So I think this will start taking shape here in a second. So I'm just going to take this exact same phrasing, and basically this will be, yeah, I like this a lot. So now this is coming together, and basically what I'm envisioning as I've been thinking about this is some way to have like an image. Actually, I want multiple images for case studies, so I'm now moving off the introduction for a second, and I think that's okay. What I'm imagining is having multiple images or GIFs or something for each of my projects, and then a quick summary. So we'll do something like this. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. I don't know if I want the statement after or before. I think what I want to do is this, actually. So I want to keep the title and the content of that project associated, and then have images for it. And then the next one. So I think something like this would be cool. And now I'm incorporating those early statements directly into the work. I don't know if I'll actually go this route, but it's fun to play around for a second. And again, what I really like about this is it will give you a quick snapshot of the case study and like some of the work I've done. And so you can get a real quick feel for my past experience just by looking at the kind of case studies homepage of my portfolio. Whoa. And then it also gives me this space for like whatever I want to call this, which could even just be like a continued grid of images. So I don't have to break this pattern that I've established here, right? I can just have a million more images. Let's do this real quick. You know? Why are you small like that? So essentially this is what the homepage of the portfolio would be, right? You'll have some kind of introduction statement and then a breakdown like this. It feels kind of crowded. I'm a big fan of just simple text portfolios, like homepages, but I don't know. Obviously this is not all the content that I would include, but I'm just kind of like getting some kind of structure here that I can feel and look at. Like this feels so much better to me. It's just so simple, but it's also extremely bland. And even if you associate it with like a few images or branding or something, I don't know. It's not for me. I want more preview here. So I kind of like this idea a little bit here. And I'll figure out what images or kind of what content I want included here in a second. Let's come back to this introduction. So I used to say multidisciplinary because I'm also a developer in things. But the types of jobs I'm looking for are specifically digital product design. I wonder if I can make this dynamic even. Like what if, hypothetically, what if I had this in a way where it could change? And I can figure out what those words are. And so you can just like, it'll cycle through words. So like that doesn't work. I don't want to add an N. The other problem with any type of change or like creative idea like this is loading times. People might not see it. It could be more distracting than helpful. So as cool as that idea would be to build, I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm going to go back toward my simple approach. But I also don't want to just say, I'm a product designer. Like, I got to say more than that. And again, I got to focus on this priming aspect. And so what I want to do is something like maybe maybe like an encapsulation of all of these other things, right? Instead of this statement that I have here today that lists out the specific work, maybe I'll just summarize it even more concise than this. But it's so vague. Like, what does leading design mean? And to who? I don't know about that one. Design teams. Design teams is part of this introduction. Oh, there's something there. I don't know if that's what you meant, Christina, in the chat, but I really like this idea of including maybe companies here or like team names. Oh, I see. Leading design teams. The challenge really is you need to be specific enough where someone can really understand what you're saying without overwhelming them, right? And so even just saying something like, I have experience leading design teams, it's too vague. And what I mean by that is, well, what did you do to lead design teams? So for example, if I wanted to elaborate on that, I could say, envisioned, built hiring rubrics. Yeah, exactly. So here's the other problem though. Like even this description of leading design teams and the breakdown of what that means, that's not the type of work I'm really optimizing my career for right now. So maybe that's a better approach, is to think, well, what are the jobs I'm optimizing for? Like what am I looking for? Okay, this is interesting. This is giving me some ideas here. I've been thinking a lot about what I'm looking for in my next team, in the next company I work for. And I have this model. If someone is watching this who I've interviewed with recently, you'll recognize this as I say it. But I've got this model called CHIPS, and I wonder if I could include that in my introduction here. So CHIPS, to me, is really what I care most about. And I wonder if there's a way to tie this into the introduction. It's customer obsessed or focused. It's humility. It's ingenuity. It's passion. And S is a little iffy, so I'm going to actually leave it out for now. Jonathan asks in the chat, are you concerned about SEO? You could include keywords in your H1 hiring manager search for. That is such a good suggestion. I'm not worried about SEO, however. And the reason I'm not worried about SEO for this is because the top term I'm hoping people search for is Tanner Christensen. And then all the other keywords that I would hope kind of attract people to my portfolio, those will be dominant in my case studies and my blog content. I want the homepage to just be me and whatever will help recruiters and hiring managers not only understand me and who I am and what I do, but also be interested enough to kind of pursue, hopefully, interviewing me. So that's what I'm looking for. That's what this introduction statement needs to do. In fact, let me write that down so I remember it. In fact, I was going to say, like, the introduction needs to give a summary of really who I am, but I don't think that's true. I think it's just, I think that's it. I think that's the objective here. It needs to interest them enough to like dig deep, right? So maybe vague terminology like leading design teams or anything like that. Maybe that's okay. Maybe I can even tease it out and say something like at the end of it, I could say, you know, go keep dig deeper, right? So coming back to this chips format, I wonder if there's a way I could do that. Oh, man, dating myself by putting a date in there. Or let's see here. The other thing about an introduction statement, which you'll hear me talk a lot about if you watch any of my portfolio reviews, is it has to be true, and whatever you say in that introduction really needs to proliferate throughout the portfolio. So if I say I'm someone who's passionate about interaction design, a lot of my case studies really needs to focus on interaction design. Or if I talk about leading design teams, my portfolio needs to have a lot of examples of that. So that's the other thing I want to keep in mind here. Calling myself a customer focused product designer is not super correct either. I'm gonna say experienced. That's such a weird thing, but yeah, I'll do that. And then I want to look up words that might describe like diverse experiences. Any words come to mind for you all? Like, I don't know why I'm doing this over here. Let me just show you my process. I'm literally just Googling what words mean diverse experience. And we've got some options here. These are just synonyms for diverse though, but that might be okay. And maybe it's even okay just to use diverse experiences. One thing that I like to do too is just Google the meaning and when they give you examples of the word. No. Sometimes that can be helpful and inspirational, but not here. All right, I don't know what to do here. Getting kind of stuck on something that I don't need to be stuck on. So I'm just gonna hash this out real quick. An experienced product designer with diverse strength in systems thinking, product strategy, interaction design, all these all these super vague terms. The problem with this too is that anytime I see a designer portfolio listing out this kind of terminology, I always feel like they just Googled what do designers do and copied and pasted those words. So I don't want to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is just go back to my original statement here and get rid of this actively looking part. And I'm just going to keep it that. Boom. Let's just do that. It's not super captivating, but you know, I don't need to get stuck on that, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. What I want to do now is really explore visually what this page might look like for the home page. So I'm going to move over here and start creating some page content here. So I'm just going to come over to desktop, make this a big boy. Man, that's huge. What size text is this? How is this size 7 font? Why didn't you all warn me that I was using the world's smallest preview? All right, we can do something like navigation. That's super simple. Let me expand this a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I just want to get a feel for what kind of things I can put on the page. Again, referencing everything we've already listed out. Let me make this way bigger. And then also get a feel for like how those elements might be displayed, how they can interact with each other, and just have fun with it. So if I go to 100% and we start looking at this, let's do navigation. I'm kind of old school. I just like my name in big bold font, easy cheesy. I'm gonna use enter. Why not? Super simple. Although I have been thinking about using like a mono face. Just get rid of like all emotion. I don't know what a good mono font is though. I'll use font book. I thought they had a mono setting somewhere in here. What is all this? Oh, they updated this. Now I don't know how to do this. Fixed width, yeah. Menlo is a good one. DM Sans. I don't know if I have that installed. No, okay. What was I just looking at? Menlo. I don't even know if that's supported on anything. Like, isn't that just so beautiful? The problem with the mono font is if you get too much, like, if you're trying to do a lot of content, I think it gets kind of dull. So if I look at one of my case studies that I already have today, like, let me copy some of this content real quick and let's see how it looks. Yeah, maybe that's just a terrible type. Yeah, I'm not feeling that. I think if I had a single page website, a single page portfolio, that could definitely work. But because I've got a lot of content and blogging content, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna fly. So I think I'll just stick with Enter. It's super simple, beautiful font, really, really clean. Let's keep that. So we've got the name. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. Then I'll do classic navigation. DM mono? Yeah, I didn't see that. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Man, that F is beautiful. Look at that. That's kind of fun. But again, I don't know if that's going to work with so much content. Are you medium? Yeah, readability is not going to work with this, so yeah, don't need to worry about that. Instead, what I need to worry about is getting this thing built. I'm looking for jobs, people. All right, what's our navigation? I already forgot. Let me just do this. See, this is why I break stuff down in a list before I start designing, so then I know what I need to add. We'll keep home. I don't know. We'll keep home for now, just in case. Let me go ahead and build this as a component. Like, that's such a bonkers thing to me. So I think what I'll do is keep it how I have it today, where this is just work. And it's kind of the same thing here. Oh, Google, what are you doing to me? Google says I've got problems with my stream. I don't know how to, okay, let's just do this. I don't know what this means. Okay. So I'm going to keep it work, and then what was the order I decided on here? Case studies, yeah. Search. Search is, I don't know. That's not right. I've used Webflow before, so I know some of the functionality here. But I don't know. Something about search being there is just kind of weird. Let's go with this for now. And again, what I'm trying to do is just get stuff on the page that I can see and kind of poke around with. And then I'll go from there. Let's make this like 20. Okay, so I'm just kind of sticking stuff up there. That's fine. I'll make this a navigation. Super cool. Good job. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Just because we can, let's get this kind of balanced out here. Okay, sounds good. Then we'll have the introduction statement. Nice and simple. And what I like to do personally for this kind of thing is just go extreme. So this is like one line, not even a full line. What do I want to do here? I like this idea of just going way overkill with this introduction and just like kind of being annoying with it. Man, what is up with this line height? Okay. I mean, that's pretty sweet, I think. Okay, let's set some widths on this stuff because this is gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna work with 1400 width. I think that's like a reasonable width these days, and then I'll get us some nice guides, I think. How do I do this? I've actually never used guides in Figma. It's super simple. Okay, cool. And then let's balance this out a little bit here. Let me know in the chat, what do you think? When people show their face or like a profile picture on their website, is that cool? Is that in or is that out these days? Should have like a memoji there. Super cliche, I love it. My wife Jasmine is a big fan of a memoji. She's not. Yeah, no. Christina's no to the memoji. Question in chat. Search should be in text or an input that is grouped out of the page navigation. Yeah, exactly. Exactly why search feels weird to have here. So what I need to do is think about, well, what is the interaction for search? How will people use that? And there's a few different options, right? We can have a search page. We can have a search input. We can have a search button that opens like a dialog for search. So something like, you know, Spotlight. Yeah, reduce the letter spacing. I completely agree. I'm not worried too much about the fine details yet. Like we'll get there in a little bit. Also with for what it's worth, you should always have the letter spacing match what he has built on his website. But I mean, this is kind of cool. I'm digging this. Why is it? What is happening here? It's so much. Like that's such a bad idea. I'm not gonna do this for what it's worth. Yeah, command K search input. The problem that I have with search right now is I really don't know how often people will use that on my website. Like I have no idea if people even care about searching like my website right now. Yeah, search. I think search is good for the blog. I know I use it personally in my own blog. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about search for now. I'll just keep it out in the ether. Okay, this is looking cool. Another thing that I like to keep in the back of my head when I'm designing is like, what are the subtle patterns that I'll want to convey certain levels of interaction? It's a little misleading, but I'll show you what I mean in 1 second. I screwed up the nav and I already forgot how. Consulting blog about. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about that. Question from the chat. Would you include a link to your Shape site on the homepage? So again, for those who don't know, Shape is the business that I started not too long ago. And if you look at my current design portfolio, I have this link here, which is not as exposed as it used to be. It used to be up here in this section and have this like nice gradient and stuff, but I changed that. I also don't have a link to it down here in my grid. That's just, I haven't gotten around to it. So yes, I will include a link to Shape, but what I'm going to do is include that as a case study. So in the case study section down here, I'll have Shape. I won't do anything more than that. And there's a few reasons for that. Primarily, like I'm looking for a job. I'm not trying to advertise my business, right? Okay, so well, I don't know what to do about this massive header. It's kind of funny. It's like, let's make it even more extreme. Man, I kind of want to design that now, but I'm not going to. So what I was saying earlier about little interactions is something I can do is use color or font style to define interactivity. And it's something I actually try to do on my website today if you poke around. And what I mean by that is I'll use something like semi-bold to convey click this. So what you're looking at here, for example, where I've got like bold name and then all these links links are semi-bold. It's like such a silly thing, but I think there's like subtle connotation here which conveys interactivity. So I couldn't bold this because it's not clickable, right? So instead I would want to go the complete opposite direction. Like what if I do thin here now? That's a little too plain, I think. I'm not gonna do that. I think I'll go for something more regular. Yeah, the question is why am I focusing on product design roles rather than like head of design, director, VP, whatever? And the reason is pretty simple for me. I love design. I love to be in the work. I love to be in Figma. I love to build. And that's where I want to spend my time. I do not want to spend my time building hiring rubrics or interview plans or investing all my time in meetings and strategizing. I'd rather be hands-on in the work. So that's kind of what I'm prioritizing in my search right now, is being hands-on in the work. I love it. It's so fun. Yeah, this letter space is going to drive me crazy. Okay, I don't know what a good one is. He's probably got it broken out on his website, but I'm not gonna worry about that for now. That's pretty good. Oh, I cannot worry about this right now. I gotta keep moving. Okay, so let's go to the case studies now, and I think this is where we can have a lot more fun. So let's see. I think what I'm gonna do is I don't know why that just happened. I'm gonna take this out over here. And instead just start creating it from scratch. So what will this look like? What's our font size here? We've got 24, 16. So this should probably be around 20. I don't know. I can use the same as my name though. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Let's leave it alone for now. Oh my gosh. Why is the default letter spacing so scary. Oh my gosh. Okay. So here again, what I said earlier, if you're just catching up or if you're just tuning in, what I decided to do was, does the title senior versus principal versus staff position matter to you? Chat asks. Yeah. But only in so much as the responsibilities associated with that title. So staff designer at a company like Google is very, very different than a principal level designer or a staff level designer at a small startup, right? So I'm not super concerned about title. I care most about the work I'll be doing and kind of responsibilities I'll have. That's what I care most about. There's this super weird thing here too with case studies and how we'll get to there in a second, but I don't like that it's just text floating out on the left side. But I also don't want to have an image. Like maybe I could use the logo or the company's like avatar here. Because what I want to do next is just have some sample images. What's a good ratio for that? Yeah, maybe like dribble size. Obviously not that big. Let's just do the math. Because I think this should be just a preview of some of the elements of the project. Oh my gosh, why are you not on the grid? And I think this will make a lot more sense here in a little bit. Also, thanks for everybody who's still watching or who's just tuning in. I really appreciate the attention, the questions, the comments, the feedback. You've all been super helpful. I'll probably keep going for another little over half an hour here, just to see if I can make a little bit more progress. And something else I could do here too is have like a see more link. I don't know how I feel about this. You know, something like that. So I'm going to just duplicate that and go to the next work experience and see how that looks. And I think I'll get to a point where I will want to have like varying degrees of, or varying numbers of work to show for each case study. So it might be something like this. I don't know what that number is. Why am I doing this outside of a frame? Whatever. This would be gem. The other challenge with this kind of layout for any website or any product is it's so left heavy. You know, you read from left to right, everything's anchored to the left. And so it just feels super heavy on the left-hand side. It almost feels like you're tipping over as you look on the page. So I need to find a way to kind of balance that out. And I think there's a lot of different ways I could do that. That's another reason I love grids of images, because they work. This is short enough where I probably could center it. And that helps a little bit as we start going down here. But I'm not sure. Let me come back to that. Let me see if I want to do this idea, because I still don't know if it's quite right. So what I want to do for this preview is give some information, but not a lot. And then I also want it to be, I do want this summary to be less vague. Hamza in chat says, quick idea, do a 4x4 grid for your case studies. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that? Not sure I understand. Are you saying like make this into like this? Is that what you mean? Benjamin asks in the chat, how do you think about responsiveness as you develop your design? It's a great question. I've had many years of conversations around responsiveness. I think having a responsive web experience today is critical. You have to have a responsive experience. People are on all different types of devices these days. Me personally, I don't even think necessarily in terms of responsiveness. I think in terms of fluidity, meaning I know there are so many devices out there today, different browsers, different monitors, different Android devices, tablets, phones, all those things, that even if I set like in my mind designs for specific breakpoints, it's not going to be a science. So what I personally do is I just have these patterns in my head, I think, where I know how certain patterns will break down, right? So for example, I know at some point this header is going to be way too big. Like on mobile, there's no way that text is going to work, right? So it looks something like this on mobile. So I know there's going to be like a breakpoint where once a stream reaches like this point, the font size has to go down. And so I'll set that in Webflow. They enable you to do that. And then I'll go to the next one and I'll be like, oh, it's okay. And I'll keep going down and I'll keep changing it for that. The same thing for my grids. Like I know on mobile, this will have to break into a 4x4 anyway, if I were to go that way, or on tablet. And then continuing down the line, I know that it's going to have to go like this at some point. And that's okay. Like I'm embracing that. I wish I could explain it more with the time we have here, but I just think in terms of fluidity, everything's growing, everything's shrinking. How will they kind of break under each other? Yeah, there's a lot there. Let's see. The chat says 2 case studies side by side, then the same thing underneath. Yeah, so it's an interesting idea. I think the problem that I have with having case studies side by side, I don't know, actually, that's not terrible. Let me quickly duplicate this and try this. Here's what I love about this part of design. I can move fast. I don't have to, guess what I'm doing. I can just kind of make it work. Or I can build it and then see it and say, yeah, that's good, or no, that's not good. So that's what I'm gonna do here. Because my gut reaction was, yeah, no, I don't want to do anything like a 2x2. But let's see it. My concern with a 2x2 like this is, will people associate these two things, whatever side by side, as being like somehow related? I don't know. Let me come back to that. There might be something there. And we've got time to figure this out. I'm not worried about it. What I am worried about is how I'm going to describe each of these case studies succinctly. Because what I don't want to do, again, is be too vague, but I also don't want to be too verbose. I need to be concise. So how am I going to say all these things concisely? Well, I think what I can do is, let's start with just an overview, which is, I think I've already done it here for shape. Start with an actionable verb. What did I do? I don't think I want to like describe the business or the product here. It's a common mistake a lot of people make in their portfolios or case studies. Instead, I want to say like what I did, what I'm responsible for. So Sudeep in the chat says, is it information overload? Why not put one project at a time with a cover? Yes. So what I decided kind of early on over here was that I wanted to, where'd it go? Somewhere over here, I think in some of these things. I want the homepage to be a real quick, scannable, concise look at my entire like work experience. So if someone were to come to my website portfolio and just look at the homepage, I want them to have enough information to say, this is an interesting person, we should talk to them, or we're not interested, or this one in particular is really interesting. So I want to kind of convey all of that. Hamza, 1 a.m., go to sleep. Thanks so much for tuning in, for chatting, for your questions. See you around. Get some good sleep. But yeah, like I was saying, I really want this homepage to be a concise way for people to understand kind of what I've done. And so that's what I'm aiming at. You do bring up a good point, though, where if I don't include something like this large arrow or a variation of, will people understand that they can go in to dive deeper on these case studies? Will they want to click on some of these images and see those images full screen from here? Or should that image, I don't know what this is playing. Or should this image magnify, right? Does the image magnify or does it go to the case study? It's not super clear here, right? So I'll need to figure that out if I want to go that route. But there's something here, so I'm going to keep going for a second because I do like this idea of previews. I already have all the images for this stuff, by the way. So finding like what images I would want to preview here, it's not an issue. Hey Ash, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the kind words. So the kind of two things I want to do with this summary here, and again, I'm working through this all. I don't know if I'm going to build this website like this, right? But one thing I want to do with these statements is say, again, what were the action verbs? What did I do? And then also what was the outcome? I think that's pretty important here, and I can do that for a lot of these things. So for example, for Gem, let me see what I even say on my current website about Gem. So what I could say is this was 2020, 2022. So that's not going to work when I do this. Let's do punctuation for now. What I want to do is say So one of the problems that, again, if you watch any of my portfolio reviews that I talk about a lot is don't use words like helped. Like, what does that mean? What did you really do? Because helped is, everyone wants to join a company to help other people. We want help. We want to get help. We want to be helped. All those things. Helped is not a great verb to use. I'm going to leave it for now, just so I can keep moving, and then come back to it later. So here we've got a line break, right? If I want to limit this. In fact, I want to go way shorter on this. Because if there are multiple lines, I want people to be able to read it really easily without having to move their head across the page. And what that tells me is now this layout is really interesting. Like maybe there's something here where we could, you know, have this page balanced more by putting the imagery. Let me get rid of this for a second. Putting the imagery to the right of the description, like this, or something like this, right? So like, how would that look here? Kind of weird. I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm just gonna leave that for now. I'm getting the content. I'm starting to see again where the pieces, what the pieces are that I want to include on this page. And then after I have the pieces, after I have some of the content roughly written out, then I can start playing more with positioning and the details of the design, and that kind of fun stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just get the elements on the page, start poking around. See, I can see here now that this is a secondary line, like, do I want this more balanced visually? Maybe I want to pull that out a little bit, make this larger, move this down. Like, does that feel better or worse? What if I go smaller? You know? It's kind of cool. I kind of like that a little bit more. The reason I like this smaller size is it lets me focus more on my content. Such a good question in the chat. Hey Tanner, I'm trying to redesign my portfolio for almost a year now. How do you know when it's time to stop changing it? When it accomplishes the goal you set out to have it accomplish, move on. Don't keep working on it. Set a goal, understand the goal, measure the goal. Yeah, that's it. Like, what else are you doing, right? And I think that's important too for designers to understand, because if you're spending so much time as a designer working on your portfolio, what does that say about your ability to effectively set milestones, set goals, wrap up a project, all that fun stuff. I don't know why I'm doing like pixel stuff here. This is stupid. So Scott's got a really interesting comment in the chat here. Thanks for tuning in, Scott, and thanks for the comments and questions. Keep them coming, please. But Scott mentioned like alternate viewpoint about the blurb. Who cares? Hook viewers into investigating more. Again, I don't know, Scott, you just tuned in, so you might have missed this, but the reason that I really think that something like an introduction statement is important is because it primes the audience for what they're about to get into. What I mean by that is, if you were to meet someone in real life, the example I gave earlier, if you were to meet someone in real life and they say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm from California, or hey, I'm so-and-so, I work at Google, whatever, you are being primed to think about that person in a certain way. Whether or not it's true, you've got this perception now about that person and expectations around what they're all about. And so I think an introduction statement can do that. Do you really need one like all the time? No, of course not. But having one helps prime the audience for what you want them to think about you, how you want to come across. You have that control. It's your portfolio. So utilize that space, utilize that opportunity to tell the audience, here's who I am, and be proud of it. And that way, when they're looking at your work or trying to understand your case studies or whatever, they're going to have that in their head, right? You are a curious is interesting, multidisciplinary digital product designer. So that's why I think that's important to include. That's why I care. Man, why am I? See, like I'm already just wasting time on trying to align stuff that just doesn't matter too much. So I'm going to keep moving here. I'm not loving this layout super lot. One thing I could also do to make it feel a little bit more balanced is trim the width. Because right now, like it's pretty sizable, but I think if I moved these things in to be a little bit more balanced with the text and things, it's gonna feel more centered, right? So I think maybe I want to do that. Oh yeah, okay. Another really great question from Jonathan. Jonathan, you're on fire today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Jonathan asks in the chat, is it safe to assume people know the type of companies Shape or Gem are? Or is this something you're going to explain in more detail on the case study page? That is such a great question. So for companies like the next few ones that I was going to put here, like Lyft, well, even Lyft is a little iffy, honestly. Atlassian, Facebook, of course, I don't need to explain. Atlassian, not everybody knows what that is. Lyft, not everybody knows what that is. Gem, for sure, not everybody knows what that is. And then Shape, of course, nobody knows what it is because I built it. And so, yeah, it's a really good call out. I think this is super relevant because I tell designers this all the time. If the company you're highlighting is one in which people don't know about it, that have never heard of it or anything, there's two things you can do. The first is describe the company. A real short statement would be really helpful. The second thing you can do is just link to the company's website. That's usually sufficient. And so I think for my portfolio, what I will do is link to it. I think that's a really good call out. The question becomes, do I want to link to it from here, or do I want to link to it from inside the case study? And for my purposes, I don't want to link to it from the homepage. I don't want people to leave the experience so quickly. And so instead, what I would do is I'll come here to the case study, and under this section here, I'll put like a 3.1, which will be link to company if relevant. Okay, Scott, thanks for clarifying. So Scott wasn't even talking about this being iffy. He was more talking about this statement here. Yeah, so again, I don't have to include this. In fact, on my current website, I do not include it. I just have a grid of imagery. But I think it's really helpful to have this here. Again, my mental model, what I'm trying to do with my new portfolio website is give people a single page that they can look at very quickly to get a taste for my experience, my expertise, my work. And I think this will help them do that. So if you don't want to click into my case study, if you don't want to look at a large page of what I've done in my experience or that work, you can just view my homepage, skim through it, read less than a paragraph of text, and you should have an idea of whether or not I'm someone you should connect to or learn more about. So that's why I'm personally adding these blurbs here. But yeah, you don't always need them. It's a good point. Nikolai asks, have you established some guiding design principles for your portfolio website redesign? Yes and no. Early on in the conversation, we kind of quickly broke down who I'm building it for, why I'm building it, my goal, my reason, and then a guiding direction, which is simple is better. As I've been going through this, I talked a little bit more in detail about the kind of things that matter to me and how I'm kind of thinking about this. But other than that, no, I think the principles I'm personally designing with are personal to me, right? And what I mean by that is like, I'm not going to care too much about internationalization, for example. I'm not going to care about right to left translation. I may explore that in the future with some like API, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Really, my guiding principle is simple. And then the word I've been using a lot of is compartmentalized. So that's what I'm doing with this homepage here is like I want to be a compartmentalized version of the rest of my portfolio. Okay, so there's, again, I mentioned this earlier and I'm really concerned about it right now. Like I need some way to communicate there's more to the case study than what you're seeing here. And I don't know if like read more text is enough here. You know what I mean? Also, like how long do I want this now? Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shorten this down, the width. I'm gonna set the max width at the good old fashioned 1200. Because that'll be great. Now what will happen is on large desktops, on really large monitors, I mean, you're gonna see the same thing that someone on a medium-sized monitor will see. And then as this website shrinks, it's gonna look better. I think a lot of this stuff will just start cascading. It'll be really simple. This is cool. I'm digging this. This is super straightforward. We'll get to the pixel polish stuff in the future. But for now, this is feeling like a really strong structured experience. I'm digging it. So let's see here. Yeah, again, I don't know about read more. I might need to do more than that. I think what could be simple enough is just making it so that when you click on these images, it does not open up that image large. Instead, it takes you to the case study. It's a little mischievous. It's kind of like it's like a subtle dark pattern in that I think when you click on an image on a website, you expect it to usually open full screen unless you're on like a Facebook feed or something. But we'll kind of utilize that to our advantage here, saying if you click on an image, you're not going to get it big. You're going to go to the case study. And on the case study page, you'll see it larger, but you'll also be able to click on it. Okay, yeah, Sudeep, I hope that's how you pronounce your name, has a great suggestion. On hover, this entire card can like highlight. I think that's a really interesting idea. Let me make a note of that too visually here, because I do think you're onto something. Where if you hover over this guy, you'll get like a nice interaction. It's a cool idea. I've played with this before in the past, and I don't know, it kind of irked me when you had like this large section that previously didn't feel like a card. You know what I mean? But it's super clear here, so let me noodle on that. That's interesting. I'm not opposed to it. I don't know. There's something about this that like breaks that simplicity model in my mind. It's probably better without the read more too. Yeah, give it a radius. Make it look more like a card. You can also do something I have on my current website, I think, which is give it a little depth. Make it like fly out a little bit or something, you know, not too much. I don't know. This is just a crazy idea. This is not pixels. Please don't think this is how I design. Oh, that's a little too much. But yeah, okay, I'll come back to that in a little bit. Let me put this with my pile of stuff that I'm considering. Okay. So what I was doing is I want to make this the 3 item width, so it's 822. And then before I get too far ahead of myself, another thing that I want to do is see how the rest of the work would look if it followed this format. So what I did previously on my portfolio is do something almost similar to this. I didn't have any of the previews, the images on the previews, and then I just had a grid of the rest of my work, but I don't want to do that here. What I want to try is something else, like, like what would I call that too? And then like, there's no, I don't know. It's like 2000 or let's do this. And then what that would essentially do, oh man, I need to figure out the width on this stuff. All right, I'll come back to that later. What that essentially would do is just have a grid. So here's a problem with this too. If I take the approach of when you click on an image, so when you click on one of these images, it takes you to a case study. When you click on one of these images, it takes you to what? Some of them will be case studies, some of them will be links. I don't know if I need to care about that too much. I do want to, like, you know, customize this a little bit more. So let me think about that. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves though because we're already missing a ton of content. When I come back to my homepage, I also have wait, I don't know what related content means. Oh, yeah, we'll come back to that in a second. Most recent blog posts, contact info maybe. Like, do I want to cram those all the way at the very bottom? And then what does this like announcement bar kind of thing look like? I don't want an announcement bar up here. I want it somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is quickly make this a frame so I can manage it a little bit better here. Okay, what I want to do is maybe have something here that's some kind of announcement, something or other. And like we could even break stuff up and just say, then we'll have like the text. And again, going back to that same like stylization thing I mentioned earlier, I'm going to kind of stylize this because the entire bar will be interactive. And then I want like some kind of image associated with this. I don't know if I want it that small as well. Benjamin asks in the chat, will you be showing how you push this design to Webflow in this session? Probably not. It's been going for almost 2 hours now. I don't want to overwhelm people with like 5-hour long sessions. I will potentially do another session following up on this one. In fact, I might just like stop now and we can do another session in the future. If you found this helpful or insightful, or you just like hanging out, having me blab on, let me know. Let me know on Twitter or LinkedIn or in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff that you get asked to do. And if I get enough people who are interested, then yeah, I'll continue to do this kind of stuff, and I'll show how I'm going to make this in Webflow.
Bake it.
So yeah, I think that's mostly it for today. If you enjoyed this, let me know. It was great hanging out with you all. Thank you so much. I'm going to call it for today because it's been almost 2 hours. My dogs are going crazy. But yeah, it was great hanging out. Thank you so much for tuning in, all the questions and comments and everything.
Okay. She tapped me up. You okay? You can't do that, okay? Sweet girl? Hey, stop it. This is not me.